We can't get better policy around climate, around health, unless we rethink the civil service. To actually have an entrepreneurial state, we need a new curriculum to really co-create and co-shape a new economy in terms of public purpose, public value, market shaping, actually learning in a humble way from the practice on the ground.
We live in a digital era. Our government is already digital. It is trying to figure out how to deliver better in that era. It is a present state problem.
I think there's multiple problems here. One is that our mental model of change is wrong. We don't focus on implementation. We don't see the possibilities in transformation. We look at the problem from the top down. What are the capacities and competencies that government needs today, and how are we building them?
When thinking about digital leaders in the entrepreneurial state, what are some of the historical harms that are becoming embedded into digital systems because of uncritical approaches? And what are some of the emergent harms that are appearing around that?
People think, oh, cities in the third world, they're all mega cities, and there's only 41 mega cities of 10 million or more. The vast majority, more than half of the population projected to 2030, will be in cities of 500,000 to 1 million and urban areas of less than 500,000. That's where the real challenge is. That's where the people, the resources will need to be, the legal frameworks, the investments.
Net financial resource transfer from developing to developed countries. Year on year, we see a very linear trend where developing countries are financing developed ones, but of course, in the context of COVID, it became really, really stark.
The welfare state can be pro-entrepreneurship, that egalitarian, redistributive policy interventions can actually encourage innovation. In a lot of the economics literature and the wider policy debate, welfare, redistribution, progressive taxation are often portrayed as a drag on growth, as things that blunt our entrepreneurial incentives. Now, many economists would go on and say, well, that trade-off is worthwhile, but what we want to do is to question whether that trade-off really exists.
What is going to displace jobs immediately is climate. It's not technology, actually. And what really frightens me, if we talk about kind of the role of the state, is we seem to have absolutely no discussion, nor policies, nor anything else to think about how we are really going to transition.
You need both carrot and stick, and we are giving loads of carrots but not enough sticks. What we have a problem here of is the scale of capital, the scale of investment that's needed, and all of what's happening at the moment is still too little and too slow.
We face this paradox at the moment where the challenges we face globally require long-term solutions, and yet our politics has never been more short-term and actually dysfunctional and broken. And that is a real difficulty.
How do we change this mindset? And how do we evaluate the collective action? Language, we need to learn other languages. When I saw an innovation ecosystem, parasitic and symbiotic, and I said, okay, nature has lessons to teach us about how the relationship between the lives occurs.
We need more finance in science and more science in finance. What we mean is these two communities need to be able to speak each other's language, because it comes down to risk perception.
The people thinking about challenges are unlikely to have got any deep scientific or technological understanding, and the people working on the technologies are unlikely to have looked at them or thought about them in the context of any wider social or economic role.
Every part of our lives is, in some sense, has technology or digital technology in it. If a society and economy is going to become more and more digitally intensive, how do we architect or create a digital public infrastructure which is inclusive, which creates green economic growth, which allows people to meet their aspirations?
The pandemic was a kind of waking up call for many of us, because we realized that digital infrastructures are underpinning essential services of society. So healthcare, education, work and labor, democracy.
I'm speaking from Ukrainian experience. Now we are
very difficult situation, and we have to support. The IT sector is the only one sector that continued to grow even during the war. So what governments should do is really support and create opportunities, and cooperate and work with the IT sector, with small and medium enterprises, with tech companies, and bring tech companies to work with Ukraine.
The Bridgetown initiative led by Mia Motley shows that we don't have an architecture that is functional today. We do need reforms.
Mission-oriented innovation in many ways is upside down. It's upside down in terms of how to run innovation. It doesn't start in the present, it starts in the future. It's about mobilizing all resources in society, not competing for funds. Governance is more of an investment than it's a cost.
The combination of all the failures and some successes gave us a regulation that then gave us the mega project that succeeded. For electric vehicle, which have been completely under the radar, no regulation for them, safety issues. So we developed an electric vehicle in partnership with the private sector. It failed, but left a regulation that came up at the top. And now we have a regulation for electric vehicle.
The topic of digital public infrastructure is one that has begun to kind of emerge more and more. The G20 had 19 of its 20 members all approve a joint statement around the importance and significance of digital public infrastructure. The real interesting action in my mind is really happening in places like Brazil, like India, like in Jamaica, and they're pushing ahead in part because the need is greater. The state has to step in, but then the state has to take on an inclusive mindset and an infrastructure mindset in order to get to scale very, very quickly. That kind of, I think, has enabled kind of a leapfrogging opportunity.
So Entrepreneurial State Festival is celebrating the 10th anniversary of the book, Entrepreneurial State, published by our director and founder, Mariana Mazzucato, 10 years ago exactly. And the institute itself was founded 5 years ago. What does it mean to have this kind of more creative entrepreneurial government when we are actually living in the times of climate emergency?
I think this pushes us actually for government to revisit first principles and to once again start asking the big questions, functioning as an orchestrator of resources and citizen talent, in touch with the SDGs on a deeper level. We need to go back to those questions of what type of societies do we want and how do we get there.
If you have an empowered, intelligent bureaucracy, that is what gets empowered and it becomes better. If you have a forward-looking, futures-oriented bureaucracy, digital will make that better.
It's about really rethinking leadership, rethinking value creation within the state, new theory, new practice, and new curriculum that's outside of the old way of thinking about education and the civil service in order actually to truly co-create and co-shape our economies.